Alright guys, let's do a review on fractions. Now, when we were in class, we had some different ways to help us remember how to do some of this. And now that we haven't been together in a while, we may have started to forget. So we're going to go over this together, okay? So when we are looking at our fraction, if I had the fraction 2 over 4, or 2/4, how did I get this? How does this become a fraction? Well, let's look at it together. If I had a pizza, and I'm going to put giant slices in it, right? Giant slices. I've got 4 slices in there. And I tell you, you get to eat 2 slices. Okay? So you get 1, 2 slices. That's where the 2 comes from. 2 is how much you get to eat. In class, a lot of times we called it our numerator. The number on the top is called your numerator. Why did we call it nummy? Because it showed what we got to eat. So it was our nummy numerator, okay? The 4, I have 1, 2, 3, 4 slices of pizza. 4 is the whole. It's how many I had total. I had 4 total. That's my denominator. That is the whole, okay? And then the numerator would be how many pieces do I get, okay? So you've got your numerator and your denominator. In the work that you've got at home, you're going to be asked to add and subtract some of these fractions. So let's remember how to do that. We went over 2 ways to do this. We're going to look at both of them, okay? We're going to look at both of them. We're going to do the same math problem 2 times in 2 different ways. Whichever way makes more sense to you. We want to make sure that you understand exactly what you're doing and you are the fraction ninja, okay? So let's look at this. If we have 1/3 plus 2/5. Let's look at our denominators. Do our denominators match? No. This would be like me coming to school with 2 different shoes on. You would laugh, I would laugh, I wouldn't do it again. What we got to do is we've got to make these things match. How are we going to do it? Now, one of the ways that we did this in class, we called the lightning bug method. Let's try that first. So what we're going to do is cross multiply. We're making a wing. 3 times 2 is 6. Make another wing, cross multiply. 5 times 1 is 5. And now don't forget your little lightning bug light. 3 times 5, 15. So now I have a denominator that matches. I've got 15. Look up here, what is my symbol? It is addition. So I'm going to do 5 plus 6. 5 plus 6 is 11. So when I add those together, I get 11 over 15. Now another way we can do this is if we find a common denominator. This is how we could go about doing that. So I have got 1/3 and I have got 2/5. What I need is for these to match. How can I do it? I need to look at my multiplication families. If I'm looking at 3 and I'm looking at 5, because remember we're looking at those denominators, not so worried about the numerators right now. But we're worried about the denominators. We want to think about that like shoes when you're coming to school. Those should match. So if I do 3 times 1, I get 3. 3 times 2, I get 6. And I keep going, okay? I keep going. We can do the same thing for our 5. 1 times 5 is 5. 2 times 5 is 10. 3 times 5 is 15. Do we see something that matches finally? Yes, we do. I've got a 15 and a 15. All I've been looking for this whole time is some same numbers. And remember, I'm not looking at these. That's what I'm multiplying by. I'm looking on this side for my answers, for my products. And I've got 15 and 15. How did we get this? By 3 and by 5. So for 2/5, I'm going to multiply everything by 3. Multiply everything by 3. For 1/3, I'm going to multiply everything by 5. I'm going to end up with 5 over 15, 6 over 15. When I go back right up here next to our lightning bug, when I do 6/15 plus 5/15, I'm going to get 6 plus 5 is 11. My denominators match. I'm going to get 11 over 15. I got the same answer both times. One way we call the lightning bug. One way we are finding the common denominator. Both work. Both work. Remember, your numerator is how many pieces that you get to keep, you get to eat, and the denominator is how many pieces you had all together. So I always think about my fractions like food. So you think of your favorite food. If you've got a favorite pie, a favorite cake, a favorite pizza, that's what we're working with. Now, we might also have some examples of equivalent fractions. What are equivalent fractions? Equivalent fractions are fractions that match. What am I talking about? What does that mean? Miss Mac, you haven't had enough coffee. Well, let's look at it. I've got 2/4 and I've got 1/2. If I'm looking at my very, very crooked pizzas here, and I've got 4, and I've got 2, 2/4, you get to have 2 slices. I got 1/2. Do you get the same amount in each? Yes, you do. And that means that these are equivalent. They're equivalent. Another way that we can look at this, you don't have to draw it every time, but if you get stuck, it's always a good idea to be able to check yourself that way. How can I break down 2/4? If I divided 2/4 by 2 on the top and the bottom, what would I get? 1/2, because 2 divided by 2 is 1. 2 going into 4, 2 times. And we could keep going and going and going. These are equivalent fractions. Equivalent fractions. Now, some of you might have also looked at it and said, well, Miss Mac, what do I do if I am subtracting or adding my fractions and they have the same denominator? Well, I have good news for you. It's going to be a whole lot easier. So if I have got 5/6 minus 3/6, denominators match, I don't have to change them. All I have to worry about is my numerators. So 5 minus 3, it's 2. 2/6. How nice is that? All I have to worry about is my symbol in the middle. So when you're doing your fractions, most important thing, those denominators. Do those shoes match? So you got 2/6. And if I'm looking for equivalent fractions to 2/6, I could try to shrink 2/6 down. Okay? Can 3 go into 2? No, but 2 can. So I can divide this out by 2. 2 goes into 2 one time. 2 goes into 6 3 times. So 2/6 is equivalent to 1/3. And if you weren't sure, you could draw them out and you could check them and they would match. So these would be equivalent. Shrinking this down this way, this is also called simplification. So I have simplified 2/6 down as small as it will go to 1/3. Because can I make 1 smaller? No, 1 is as tiny as I can go. So this is simplified. So we have simplified it, and we have also located another equivalent fraction. You have done all this with me in class. This is just a quick review in case anybody's having a hard time. Make sure you look it over. If you're still struggling with it, check the playlist. I put together a list of all of the different songs that might help you review the different things from 4th grade this year to help you finish those packets.